Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Maureen, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make McCall's pattern M8506, and we're going to be making view A. So I just want to let you know that for my dress, I did not do a color block, but you can absolutely do one. And if you plan to follow along with me, you're going to need to follow the pattern pieces here. So I did cut out pattern piece number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then 9 for the pocket. Once you cut out all of your pieces, cut your pattern, and you've got everything ready to go at your sewing machine, let's go ahead and get started. All right, first step, you're going to go ahead and stay stitch the armholes for pattern piece number 2, and also stay stitch the armholes for pattern piece number 1. And you're gonna set these to the side. Then you are going to finger press your straps and you're going to sew this up at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance.
Be sure to complete the following steps for both straps.
And then go ahead and trim it down to 1/4 inch.
Next, you want to grab your thread looper and you want to slide the metal piece all the way through the tube of the strap until you get to the very end. At the end of the metal piece, there is a hook. So hook the fabric onto that metal piece and then go ahead and begin sliding your fabric onto the other side. And depending on how slippery or how thick your fabric is, this could be a bit of a challenge. And you may also have to slide it off to finish undoing the fabric. Once this is finished, go ahead and give this a really good press at your iron.
All right, next up, you are going to take your straps and make sure you're using the slanted edge here. And you're going to match it up to the dots on the bodice on pattern piece number 1. And you are going to pin and sew this down at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance at your machine. Okay, so this is the front piece, right? And this is the right side up. And then we have our middle piece, and you see it kind of looks like almost like a banner, like a saw here. And so you have a notch here and a notch here, and on this middle piece, pattern piece number 6, you have a notch here and there's a notch right here. So you're going to gather right here, and then you're going to, of course, match your notches and then pin it. But I wanted you to see it laid out, that way you can kind of see the vision. So you guys know I love the yarn method. You can do your 2 rows of gathers with a basting stitch, or you could do the yarn method or dental floss or whatever you choose to do this. But go ahead and do your gathering row right here.
If you are doing the yarn method, I always like to leave a little tail of yarn at the very beginning of the pattern piece that I'm working on. That way, when it's time for me to pull the yarn, I have a little bit of slack. You want to make sure that you have your widest stitch length for your zigzag stitch. So make sure that you adjust your sewing machine settings for that, and you are going to hold your yarn right in the middle of your presser foot. For more information on this specific tutorial, I will be linking my video down below. So I have my fabric right side facing up again, so that way you are able to visualize what the slants will look like. But now I'm going to start gently pulling the yarn to make my gathers on this tier right here. Now with right sides together, I'm going to start pinning pattern piece number 1 and pattern piece number 6 together. Of course, I want to make sure that I match those notches up together, and then I also want to make sure that my gathers are evenly distributed as well. I'm gonna flip this right side out one more time, that way you guys can see that the gathers are going in a certain direction as far as like the slant in the skirt. And I actually used the line illustrations of the front and back to really guide me in this, and so I encourage you to keep this with you at all times while you are working on this dress, even though I do have this tutorial available for you. I know sometimes things can be a little confusing. All right, so now we are going to take this to our machine and stitch this down at 5/8 just underneath that yarn piece right there, and it equals out to be about 5/8 of an inch. And you can actually manipulate your gathers a little bit more with the yarn method, which is what I like. And so go ahead, once again, sew this down at 5/8, and you'll want to complete these same exact steps for the back piece as well. Once you have finished sewing up your gathers, go ahead and you can actually remove the yarn piece from out of the gathers. Finish the edge at your serger or give a zigzag stitch, and then press those seams towards the top of the dress. And so this is what the front and the back should look like once you have completed this step. Now we are moving on to the last row of our dress.
So go ahead and take pattern pieces 7 and 8. 7 should be the longer one, 8 should be the short one. And you're gonna have a notch on the side here and here, and go ahead and pin those together. And you're gonna sew this at 5/8 at your sewing machine.
Once you sew down pattern pieces 7 and 8 together, go ahead and finish that seam, and then you're also going to do a row of gathers on this one as well. And now we're going to attach this row to pattern piece number 6. So go ahead and repeat those same steps for the front and the back of the dress.
And once again, you want to make sure you're following the line illustration should you get lost. It has been very helpful for me in this project, so I highly encourage the use of it.
Once again, you can leave a tail of yarn at the beginning and the end of your of your gathers, and then go ahead and sew this at 5/8. And once again, you can manipulate those gathers as you're sewing if you need to. And then once you are done completing this row, take this to your serger to finish that raw edge, or you can use a zigzag stitch at your machine. And also, once again, don't forget to take the yarn out of the rows as well.
Okay, so now we're gonna add in our pockets. I always like to serge the curves of my pockets and then add them in because it just makes it so much easier and nicer. So go ahead and match up your notch on your pocket and the notch on the side, and you should also have 2 dots here as well. And go ahead and pin your pocket right there, matching up those notches and dots. And then you're gonna sew this at the machine at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you're gonna do this for all 4 pockets. All right, once you add your pockets, go ahead and serge those edges all the way down from almost the armpit down to the bottom hem. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna put right sides together, and you're gonna pin this matching your notches, your pockets, and your sides. And then you're gonna take this to your machine and sew it at 5/8.
As you approach the first dot, you want to make sure that you backstitch forwards and backwards, and then you'll continue your stitching at the bottom portion of the pocket. So basically you're going to skip over the opening of your pocket and continue that straight stitch all the way down. As you approach the bottom, don't forget to backstitch forwards and backwards, and then you want to go around the curve of your pocket, matching up where you were for the dot on your dress. And you may have to raise your presser foot from time to time as you go around this curve, or you may have to slow down the speed of your sewing machine as you go around this curve. And then you want to stop at the second dot as well. That way you have completed your pocket sack and you have also completed your opening while simultaneously finishing that side seam. And you want to do this for both sides of your dress.
All right, now we are going to attach our strap to the back bodice piece. And so remember, we've already attached it to the front, so you're going to follow the line of the armhole and attach it right here at this dot. Place it right on top,
put a pin in it. And then you'll do the same thing to the other side. Make sure that the strap is not twisted. Match that dot with the strap and pin it in place. And go ahead and stitch this down at 3/8 at your machine. And then what I also want you to do is take pattern pieces 4 and 5, and these should have been interfaced already. And if you know me, you know that I like to use my interfacing scraps. But go ahead and interface this if you haven't already, and then finish the sides and then the lower curved edge of pattern pieces 4 and 5 as well. All right, now you're going to take pattern pieces 4 and 5, and keep in mind you should have marked those dots because that's where your straps will go. And what you're going to do is you are going to put these right sides together, and you're going to stitch down at 5/8 on each side, and then you'll press this open at the iron. Okay, so now we are going to pin our facing to our dress bodice. So you have notches here on the front, and then you have a notch in the armhole, and then you have your double notches on the back side. So match your notches up like this, and put the facing and the bodice right sides together. And your dots should match exactly where the straps are. Make sure to tuck your straps out of the way of the facing. You don't want to sew them up into the facing or into the dress. You want to make sure that they, once you're finished with your facing, that they're showing out from underneath the facing. Now that this is all pinned together, take this to your sewing machine and sew it all the way around at 5/8. As you approach the corners of the bodice, be sure to raise your presser foot and pivot as needed. And you want to make sure that you are staying within that 5/8 seam allowance, and that the strap is staying completely out of the way of the facing. Okay. So now I want you to trim your corners. You may also trim your seam allowances and then of course clip in those curves around the armholes. Those are going to be extremely critical in your facing laying as flat as possible and that there's no fabric that is pulling up as you're wearing it. Next, you want to turn your facing right side out and you want to start pulling out the straps. Again, you want to make sure that the straps are not twisted and that they are sewn down where they need to be sewn down. I would also use this time to add in a tag to your dress, like a little clothing tag. That way you know the front from the back, because it can get very confusing since it's the same shape forwards and backwards. And then once you do that, you want to press the facing and the bodice at your iron, because we're going to understitch all the way around the front, underneath the arms, or on the armholes, and then around the back as well. Keep in mind when you are understitching, your seam allowance needs to be pressed towards the facing. That way the stitching will catch the seam allowance and the facing, and then that fabric will naturally fall behind the dress. For your needle placement, you probably want to move it to about a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, as close to the edge as possible. And keep in mind too that you will not be able to understitch the straps of this, so you'll need to move around the strap part and then start as close as possible to the strap and then work your way through the underarm facing. And this is an optional step, but I do like to do it. You can stitch in the ditch right here. That way your facing will actually stay down. And you do it right along
that armpit seam.
All right, and then for your final step, go ahead and serge this edge and then do a 5/8 turn up and another 5/8 turn up, and that is the hem of your dress.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching that tutorial. Now, if you like this video and want to see more videos just like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're not following me already, you can follow me at Raven Maureen right here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. See y'all next time. Bye.